What's going on, guys? BladeZilla here, and today we're taking a look at this absolute beauty of a new edition, which is actually a throwback to an old model from Shirogorov. This is the 111. And my first 111 that's had G10 on it versus kind of carbo tie or carbo quartz. I can't recall what they've been using recently in their high-end Gen 5 ones. But anyway, we're going to talk about this, a G10, Black G10. We'll get more into that. And a cool new blade steel, which is once again a bit of a throwback. So as a reminder, guys, visit BladeZilla.ca, which is my website in Canada, where a lot of the knives featured on this YouTube channel are available for purchase. Just added the F95 Zeros, some GTRs from Riet, some Wingman EDCs, etc. with lots of stuff coming. So non-stop, it seems, lately, with people making more cool knives. This being one of them. So where do we begin on this? Well, you know, it's been a while since I've had a production 111 on the channel. I've had a couple custom division 111s in the last little while here, namely the Starship, as well as, I think, did I have a bronze or a copper 111? Anyway, I've had a couple, but this knife is one that I get asked for all the flippin' time, pun intended. You know, when do you get more 111s in? When do you get more 111s in? And I got a huge stack of these, hopefully to buy some time more than anything, because they don't seem to be putting out too many 111s. Either that or the demand isn't there, I don't know. But to me, it seems like there's lots of demand, so well, we're going to have some 111s for a bit. So where do we begin? Well, officially, I'm doing this without any kind of information, so don't know the exact specs, so we're going to get into this like we normally do. But officially, the box says Black G10. And if you're like me, you immediately speculate as to why they didn't just write G10, but they had to specify the black part of G10. So I'm assuming at some point we're going to see some different color variations of this. We are coming in at 9 3/4 overall length, a big boy, with that 111 mil blade. So I'm seeing here 4 1/4 roughly sharpened. So she's a big knife. Handle 5 1/2, 5 3/8, somewhere in there, depending on how good your eyesight is. If it's like mine, it's not great, but that's okay. A new steel for me, in that I haven't had any Shirogorov with this. And if we look here, it is Cronidur 30, or Cronidur 30, which is a tool steel. And in terms of, you know, the coolness factor of it, obviously it's a, you know, it's a cool name and whatnot, but it's probably in line with like an LMAX in terms of, you know, quality level, desirability, but it is a tool steel. Really cool. And with that, we get that hand ground blade. That's definitely done by hand. Just looking at it. And just beautiful stone wash, flat ground, beautiful blade. You get the Shirogorov Bear as well. And I know I've talked about recently in some videos, I'm not a big fan of when that's on the blade, but that's my opinion. Shirogorov, they do what they want to do, but I think it looks fantastic. It is a bit of a throwback, this 111 as well, I should add. My understanding is that they made this exact knife in the kind of mid to late teens. I think 2016 was when they released that. So same thing, Black G10, but like I said, this time around we might, and I don't know, but we might see some other colors. I'm just assuming that because when the box says Black G10, you just assume that you're going to get other colors at some point. Now, in terms of the value offering on this, well, we've seen the Gen 5, Gen 5.1s, etc. They've all had the carbo quartz, or carbo tie, or whatever you want to call it, scales on it. Now, this is the first for me to see G10, so with that, the value proposition here is that it's a little cheaper, because I think MSRP on 111s proper with M390 are $1,200, $1,250, maybe $1,300 US, like table. And I believe this one is like $800 or $850. So like Super good value for 111. For a user, definitely. Now let's take a look at some of the hardware here. So we've got some real nice kind of Shirogorov pivot hardware. All three on the one side, on the show side. And you know, if you do have a tool, definitely use that, the Shirogorov tool, pen tool, etc. It's going to make life a lot easier. But you can get away with, you know, a penny or whatever. And I also dig how on the back side here, you get the blanks on that hardware. It just kind of looks nice. I'm kind of wondering why they mounted that clip externally, and I can't recall on the 111 Gen 5.1 if they mounted this the same way or if that was attached internally from the inside. But just looking at it, it doesn't look out of place. It may actually be the same clip, to be quite frank, which is not a bad thing. Beautiful clip, lots of nice milling. Even underneath in the G10, and we haven't even talked about the G10, my god. So let's flip this back over. The milling on the G10 is phenomenal, okay? I'm curious what this would look like finished in tie, but you've kind of got like, almost like a cross-hatching kind of pattern in this, so it's going to make some real nice grip. And as you can kind of see, the light's bouncing around. I've got two lights and a window behind me here. So the angle is going to grab it and change kind of the pattern, but it's more or less a crosshatch. And then the Shirogorov kind of, they really like doing this milling up top here like they've done on the new F95. Same with down here. They kind of like doing the swoop on both sides. We've got a nice thick backspacer as well to kind of match everything. And let's see, I don't think we have jimping on this. No, we don't. That's interesting. But we've got a nice flat top on that blade, which appears to be nice and thick, probably in the 4mm conversation. So real nice and thick. All the way down, and it's a slicer, man. You can do whatever you want with this thing. You can go right up. Beautiful, beautiful grind. Then on the flip side here, like I said, we got that Cronidur 30 or Cronidur 30. I'd love to know more about this steel. I haven't done a whole bunch of research on it, but I'm sure somebody in the comments will kind of place it in terms of where it kind of fits in the grand scheme of things. But my understanding is it's kind of in that LMAX kind of range of price point. And it's kind of like you'd expect, you know, on a price point of this knife. Like, you know, to me, I would have positioned this personally with Chromax, because that's kind of where it would fit in the lineup. So they're cool, you know, they're going tool steel for a reason. And, you know, they go with a cool steel. It's just adds some cool factor to it if you're building a collection and maybe you don't have that in it yet. Like I certainly don't. So it's pretty cool. The flipper, if we're looking at this critically, the flipper's pretty forward of that front pivot as well. And remember, I always talk about this and I say, well, the further the flipper is in front of the center point of that pivot, think of it as kind of going a bigger gear on your bicycle so that it just hammers that thing out. And the further you bring it back, the easier the gear on the bicycle is. So when you get certain knives like the Tom Mayo Dr. Death, which I just so happen to have beside here, and when you have that pivot so far behind, right, or the flipper behind the pivot, people always say, oh, the D10's really light on this. It's really light. No, it's pretty standard. It's just that's so far back, it's like going into a big gear. So you can fail the opening. See how I can do that? Because it's just got a lot of leverage. You know, that's easily addressed by giving it some English and flicking it a little harder. Not a big deal. On the, let's see if I can grab an F95 here. Or a Quantum, sorry. Quantum, same thing. Fairly forward of that center point. Right? Nice, good, solid all-arounder. And then the Neon as well. Pretty center. Pretty normal, right? But the bigger the blade, the more leverage you want to put on it, I find, so they move it forward a little bit, so it absolutely hammers out of this one. Fit in hand is beautiful, like I was saying earlier. They just have that milling to a science, and it just rests in your palm so nicely. Fits so beautifully. I could probably have 2 more fingers and have no problems fitting it on here, so definitely a 7-finger knife. Definitely a 7-finger knife. Or 5 with some work gloves, or 6 with some work gloves, definitely. But it's a nice, comfortable grip. Real nice. Feels solid, too. Like, it's almost indistinguishable between the Gen 5 ones. And it is a liner lock, but is on multi-row bearings. You know what? I actually don't know what it's on. I just assumed it's on multi-row bearings. This is why it'd be nice to have a spec sheet, but let's find out what it's on. Where they wrote that. Is that inside the little... Usually it's on right at the bottom here. See if I can get it to focus. Yeah, MRBS. Just on the bottom there on the little tab, MRBS. So it is on multi-row bearings, which, lo and behold, I just assumed it was on, but feels real natural, smooth. Heavier the blade, the nice float that you get out of that. Absolutely beautiful. And that's a very tight tolerance as well. For such a long blade, dead center. Remember, the longer the blade, the more that anything's off center will get exaggerated as it goes down the length of the handle. So to be that precise is actually quite difficult, I'm told. So that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I really dig how the backspacer on the 111 just comes up like the full length of that knife. I love how they do that. It's such a nice fitting design. It almost makes me wonder why they don't do that on more. But it's the design, and you know, you've got, geez, 80% of this knife is covered, so less lint, etc. I do want to take a look at the inside of this to see if there's any Easter eggs of any kind or anything cool to note. Other than that MRBS on the tab, I don't see them doing any milling on the inside of this. Because it is G10, it's not really required. So no, it's pretty flat on the inside. All the work is done on the milling, and as you look down on the lock here, you know, you've got beautiful milling all on both sides of the frame. Nice angled bevels. And just rounded, comfortable. And then that tab just sticks up ever so slightly, probably by about 1 millimeter. I'll roll the knife to show that. This is what I'm looking at right here, that tab. How it just pops up just a little bit. So your finger can find it. And then, you know, the cool factor of this knife is how the stepping of that tab, right? That's just a cool little cutout on the millwork there. Just makes it look so sharp, so good. Love that. Fairly light engagement as well, which is pretty standard, right? But what's not standard is how smooth this thing is. Whew. This is one of the smoother multi-row bearings out of the box, and that says a lot. On the backspacer as well, if we're looking at it critically from the side, what's missing, guys? What's missing? Well, if I pull out my old friend Stellar here, you see how the lanyard hole has a little see-through. You can kind of peek through it, right? Well, we've gone the old-fashioned backspacer integration, where it's kind of tucked in. If it wants to focus, we can actually show that. So you can see on the side here, we've got a lanyard hole, but built into that backspacer. That's done so well. It actually pops out a little bit more than I was actually anticipating. I wonder why they're doing that, right? You can still kind of see through it, but it's not quite as integrated as the Quantums or the F95. Still works, still looks good. You can get a nice thick cord in there. That's what she said. And, you know, still run things in that you want. If you want to do leather, if you want to do paracord. You know, I can just imagine, though, like, it's a pretty big knife. But I should say it's a pretty big knife when it's open. But when it's closed, like, honestly, like, let's grab that Quantum there. It's really not that much bigger. Like, it is, it certainly is, right? But it's not, that exaggerates it big time. Closed, right? Camera angle. Grab a neon here, closed. Where are we here? Actually, let's grab a Stellar as well. Stellar closed. And remember, the Stellar's not much smaller than a Quantum. you know, it doesn't feel that big. Maybe we'll do a blade lineup as well, just to show. If I can get all these kind of on the board. Hopefully it can kind of show the ratios of some of these knives. It's always fun to see. And last one. There we go. Some big jumps. I don't normally have 111s to kind of show. I'm always talking these three, and basically all the custom division reviews, all the F95 zeros, NLs, F3s, etc. I'm always comparing these three. The 111 obviously is a substantial jump in size, because the same jump in size between these three is from 1 to this, right? So 95 mil to 111, what is that? 16 mils in blade? Whereas 95, what is this? 85 and 80 or something? Or 95, 90, 85, something like that. They're not huge jumps, obviously. The other thing I want to draw your attention to is look at the swoop on these blades, on the drop points. Quite a bit flatter. Almost like a spear. It's quite interesting, right? Quite a long flat on this, and then a very muted drop, whereas these are all pretty similar. It's something to think about. Something to always think about. Let's put these bad boys back in their case. But nonetheless, another cool addition to Shirogorov's line. I'd be curious to know more about that steel and kind of where it excels and where its weak points are, pun intended. Because we always say, like, what is it? Pick edge retention, durability, and what's the third one? Sharpness or whatever. Toughness. You know, pick two basically. So it's stainless is the third one. So kind of you can typically only have two, but they say MagnaCut is now kind of the best of the best. But they've been saying, you know, new steels come out and they're always the best of the best. It's always, you know, when S90V came out, it was the best of the best. And most people still just love M390, saying good enough, cheap enough. I can sharpen it. Holds an edge good, it's tough, it's stainless, you know, it's good. So I'd be curious to see, you know, Cronidur 30, where that fits in. I'm assuming it's not super stainless, but has a good edge retention. That's just what I'm guessing. And low toughness, maybe? Find out. But my God, that action is just beautiful. And it might just be the fact that it's a super long blade, and that's kind of half the battle. Is the longer the blade, the thicker it is, the heavier it is, the more kind of oomph it has, and the more swing that it has. So it could be that. It just exaggerates how smooth it can feel. But it is beautiful. One thing I also wanted to notice or comment on was, I thought on all the 111s I've had, I always thought they've put something right here. Am I crazy? Or have they always put some kind of jimping on the tip here? And this is complete absent of that. Could be wrong. But it is interesting that it is, it's not there. So, pretty cool. But man, fit in hand, it's one of the best. One of the best Shirogorovs in hand, honest to goodness. We haven't done a weight, so we'll get that as well. Bear with me here. Let's get the scale pulled out. And may as well get a weight on this guy. It doesn't feel too heavy either, which is kind of funny, but I can't see it being more than 4.5 ounces. We will find out. Any guesses? Any? 5.3? Yeah, okay. It is G10. 5.3. I had in my head, I was going to say 5, because I remember 5.1. So maybe that was the carbon version. But 5.3, still, it's a 4-inch freaking 4.25 inch blade. Like, this is a big knife. So yes, it's a little portly on the ounces to inches ratio. That being, you know, the perfect EDC, they say, is a 3.5 ounce knife that has a 3.5 inch blade. I've really much preferred more of the F95, 4 ounce type knife. And this guy's 4 1/4 and, well, 5.3 or whatever ounces. But it's G10 tool steel, robust as hell, and a classic design. And it's a throwback to that 2016 version of this knife. And I should have also say, like, when you punch in Shirogorov Cronidur 30, I think they've done, I'm sure Google can help me out, but I'm pretty sure they've done some F3s, some limited F95s, and I thought they had one more with that steel on it, the Toboggan. Back in the day, they had a couple there using that steel, because it's an older steel, right? Or oldish for Shiro. So it's the first use of that steel that I can remember since then. So who knows? There may have been some show special or whatever, but the fact that they're using it now is another questionable thing to talk about. When I said earlier, you know, seeing Black G10 on the box tells me there's probably going to be another color, but the fact they're using this steel now makes you wonder if there's going to be something else coming that has that steel on it, because you probably buy a lot of it in one go and you don't just throw it out. At least that's how I would do it. But who knows? You know, maybe some F3s. That'd be kind of cool. Some green micartas with that. That'd be pretty sweet. Anyway, how do I improve this guy? Well, I don't think I would. Make it out of complete milled titanium, plain Jane tie with M390, and that's my dream knife. But unfortunately, all their production 111s have been non-titanium, just their custom divisions, and that has made them worth a lot more money. It's a lot of material on these knives. So anyway, I feel like I'm rambling. I will stop there, I believe, and let you guys go. Have yourself a fantastic week. Leave a comment below, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Visit the site, BladeZilla.ca. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on TikTok. Send me a message, man. Let's just chat. It's easy. It's as easy as that. I'm pretty approachable, so it's not going to scare me off asking knife questions. Unless it's like, hey, where do you want to be stabbed? In which case, I'm not going to be a fan of that message. But if you want to chat EDCs, let's do it. That'd be fun. All right. Have yourself a great week, guys. Talk soon. Peace.